Hello, and welcome to another episode here of World of Tanks Modern Armor. I was gonna say Developer Diaries, but
we could
developer
we could
stream
make this a
here.
diary, couldn't we?
Uh, Anywho, thank you everyone for hanging out with us here. We have some cool stuff to share with you, but before we start, why don't we talk about our lovely weather here, Mr. Bam? What's the weather like this week?
This week isn't so bad. I mean, I had a chance to go outside and take a quick walk during the afternoon. Lovely outside. Next week, I tell you, look at the forecast. It's going to get hot.
Okay, okay, okay.
Pump up the AC.
Pump of the AC. I hear you. All right. Well, let's go ahead and jump into our World of Tanks news, Mr. Bam. Go ahead and take it away.
Well, that is what we're here for. And a momentary genius calling out, there's a tank behind me. I'd actually be surprised if there wasn't. I always try to have some sort of tank going on back there. Any guess what that might be? We will be talking about that pretty soon. Let's see. So this week we had the release of the on-track K91 Soviet medium. If this is a tier 10 tank lacking from your collection or just looking for another progressive grind to run through, definitely hop on to the on-track for the K91, and you'll have all these discounts applied as you try to earn your way through all the Soviet mediums, as well as higher earn boosts as you go through them at the same time. And then we have a new contract, the Roundabout. Again, another tank if you're lacking from your collection, or if you just don't have a current contract signed at the moment. Roundabout is out and available. Sign one up for that today. Up next, I know a lot of players ask about the trade-in events. This is a big one. So the article is live for all the details if you guys are curious of the full list. Or, of course, you can check them out in-game. And these are all the tanks that you can trade in any of your current existing ones for brand new tanks, including the T-77, the Panzerknacker Auto, the Diamondback. I called this one out last week, one of my favorites. The Lansen C, the Senshi Star 2, Alpine Tiger, the Skoda T56, the Turtle, and the Type 59D, and a few others. And again, there's an article up, and you guys can check that out now. Also, believe it or not, we are approaching our 25-year anniversary as Wargaming. Not the title itself. We're actually getting pretty close to our 10-year anniversary. More details on that in months to come. But hey, that company at large, 25 amazing years, which is pretty incredible. And as well as the trade-in that we had just mentioned, we have a lot of other sales and special bundles for you guys, including 50% off emblems, inscriptions, flags, camos, and select bundles for XP, Commander XP, and Silver boosters, as well as other consumables and tank bundles, including the Gap Defenders, which comes with the Leopard VT2 and the M60A1 Rise, and our other bundle offering the Aggressive Expansion T72M1 and the Object 934.
Sounds great.
Sounds amazing. 25 years.
That,
I've only been... You're going on about 9 years yourself with Wargaming. Is that accurate? Are you getting closer to 10 years?
that is correct. I already hit my 9 years. Yeah.
You already hit your 9 years. Okay.
Yeah.
I myself am getting close to that 10 year. So very exciting to be, still with this ongoing company and product and community, of course.
It's definitely amazing. But yeah, 25 years is a nice feat here. So hopefully we have some nice goodies here to share. Let's see. What else do we have in store for our players?
Well, let's talk a little bit about our last weekend event. This was our final beta for our control game mode. When I say final beta, let me stress, final beta for this season, which was a focus on Cold War Era 2. Hopefully you guys had a chance to jump in during the weekend time frame. Like I said, it is a beta. We're doing a lot of testing. There are bugs that you, the players, have indicated and have noticed, brought to our attention that we now have tickets and are following up on. But hey, hit us up with feedback. I know our community team, KB and T-Kane, do a great job scrubbing the socials and our Discord and sending that feedback over our way. Help us improve the mode. This is something that we will run more beta tests next season and other seasons to come. And we are aiming for kind of a final release of control mode much later down the line this year. So hopefully you guys had a chance to check it out. Otherwise, a few details to talk about it if you did miss out on it. Like I mentioned, it was focused on Cold War mode, Era 2, restricted to lights, mediums, and heavies only. And we had 4 maps in rotation, including Overlord, Ghost Town, Himmelsdorf, and Heilbronn. In this game mode itself, it's more focused on base capturing, right? There's, unless you're on Himmelsdorf, the other maps had at least it had 2 bases in which when you capture the base, the match doesn't end. The match kind of keeps going. This isn't like a new game mode that other games have already kind of come up with, an older idea, but we are finally trying to adopt it into our own fashion that makes sense and well balanced for World of Tanks Modern Armor. And it's more geared about the win condition is earning points for your team. First team to 1,000 points will win, and points are accrued by either owning a base and earning those points over time as you hold the base, or destroying enemy tanks will also net you a fixed amount of 50 points per tank destroyed.
Awesome. You mentioned that there was 4 maps in rotation this time. Did you have a favorite map that you enjoyed playing on? And if so, why?
Let's see. Kudos to our level designer. The maps chosen were meant to offer very diverse gameplay opportunities, where not all of them had kind of a symmetrical layout of where the bases are at. We had our urban maps like Himmelsdorf and Ghost Town available, and our much more widespread map like Heilbronn. Did I have a favorite? I think Overlord was probably my favorite for Cold War, but when we did World War II, World War II also had Overlord and Himmels, but we also had Airfield and Mines. I'd have to say Airfield was probably my favorite when we did World War II control mode.
Okay.
And we do have other maps kind of in the roster. Stay tuned. Next season, Control Beta will be coming back. We'll make sure you guys are in the know of when that's coming along and kind of give you a breakdown of the criteria sets, the maps, and some updates as well.
Cool.
I got a few more things I'd like to share with everybody, though. Some data sets that we grabbed from last weekend's beta tests for Cold War control mode. Can we put up the first image up on screen here, Tankz0rz? I love the hand wave. Here is the image. Okay, same format that I kind of ran last week, talking about control mode World War II and comparing it with its similar data as we would see in random battle PvP. As you can see, the bottom set of data there, random battle PvP, Heilbronn is the only map that we're going to be comparing with, for the obvious reason we don't have Himmelsdorf, Ghost Town, or Overlord available in the Cold War Era 2 rotation. But it's still a good metric and a good comparison, so I wanted to at least showcase one map to compare directly against. Let's take a look at the first column here for the average number of kills per match. Not a surprise, the tank destruction and control mode on average is going to be higher than that of random battle, with Himmelsdorf being a lot higher. It's just higher than the others. That was the map with the single control base, so that got a lot of focus of attention to where all the players more or less converged on the same grid unit. And you can see that's also showcased here in the next column for the average damage given per battle. Himmels at a 37K, and roughly 32K for the other 3 maps. So all well above the average damage given in random battle. Distance traveled, take that what you guys will. Just the amount of distance people are driving around. But actually the average between Heilbronn map is just on par. Here's the next one, the average match time. This is the fourth column of the pink bars here. This was one that we really wanted to keep our eyes on. From design perspective, we really wanted our control mode to be on par with the average match time that of random battle. And that is typically between 5 and 7 minutes. World War II control mode beta that we did last week was hitting that mark very nicely, roughly at the 6-minute mark across the board. As we can see here, 3 of the maps are at the 5-minute mark, and Heilbronn being at the higher end here. Heilbronn being a larger map, and the bases themselves spaced out. One thing of note, though, is while this met our goal of being between 5 and 7 minutes. It's no surprise that there are some blowout matches that do end in 3 to 4 minutes, and we are aware of that. And so we are taking that very seriously to consider how do we want to improve that for the next step. The next beta test. And I'll cover that a little bit shortly as well. And then for anyone curious, we also have data here, just the average capture points per battle and the average defend points. These are not the points directly related to the points that you're earning for the win condition of control mode. These are the actual base capturing points. So that, of course, it's a base-centric mode. It's obviously going to have a much higher point capture rate than that of random battle. And then one more graph I want to show you guys. This is now kind of the same data table, but right now we're comparing both Cold War, that's demonstrated in the columns at the top, versus the same set of data of World War II beta test that we ran 2 weekends ago. So just kind of a reference for you guys if you were curious about that. No surprises that the average damage given is almost twice that of World War II mode. The average number of kills, just a little bit higher than it was in World War II. And again, here's the average time. Both, like I said, meet between the 5 to 7 minute mark average, with World War II meeting the 6-minute time frame a lot better than that of Cold War. Cold War is, of course, especially the Era 2, a lot of fast tanks, and getting into the engagement and just fighting with the other tanks and getting the points obviously will lead to quicker matches on average. All right. So a few other data points I'd like to share with you guys. Just kind of average credits and XP across all Era 2 tanks during control mode. We did find that the average silver was in fact a little bit higher. Oh, I'm sorry, not this one yet, Tankz0rz. Actually, okay, let's keep this one up. Let's keep that one up. We'll skip around a little bit. This is the most popular used tank during control mode in Cold War mode. This is just the number of battles that these tanks have seen over the last weekend. And our winner, of course, is the FV4211. By quite a landslide, too, just followed by the AMX-13 and the FORAD. So I thought that would be just a fun data point that if users were curious. So circling back, I do want to talk just briefly on the average XP and credits earned. We did hear from the players that when we ran our World War II mode, it felt like there wasn't enough earn for the XP in silver, and it felt a little bit disincentivizing. We didn't make any tuning changes by the time the Cold War mode came out. We wanted to make sure we kind of kept things at a level in terms of the data, everything on the same page here, and just kind of switch up the criteria of what tanks and era tiers are available. So that being said, while World War II was a little bit of a low earner, Cold War mode, on the counter hand, was a bit different. Average credits in random battle is about 107,000 that's across all Era 2 tanks. But in control mode, that's got a small bump of 113,000 on average. So that's credit, that's silver, but for XP earn, that one was just a small undercut from the random battle. In Era 2, average XP earnings is about close to 22K on that, and control mode was roughly around 1,996. So just a little bit under. Things that we will continue to keep an eye on. I know players want a little bit more incentivization to join the mode itself, and so this is data to help us inform what we do for our next steps moving on further beta testings and up to like a full launch of control mode itself too. Let's see. So all that in mind, we did have some discussions with the design team to see what was something that we can kind of tune. What can we try for our next upcoming sets of beta testing in the next season? So what I can tell you guys that there was a lot of users asking and wishing that the matches themselves were a bit longer. Like I said, there were a good set of blowout matches that would end between 3 to 4 minutes. We were aiming to get most matches between 5 and 7. But because players are asking, and this is also mirrors a lot of the feedback we got from Super Tests as well, we did decide to make some changes that would help boost the duration of the matches. Our new internal aim is to see if we can get between 7 and 8 minutes on average. Hopefully we'll see what that is. And by doing so, what we are changing is the amount of points that you can now earn when you destroy an opposing tank. So the past 2 weekends in control mode, anytime you destroyed a tank, that was a direct contribution of 50 points to your team. Next time, expect to see in the control beta test, it'll be 30 points per tank destroyed. So, but naturally, that should bump up the duration of the matches themselves. No changes to how much points that you get when capturing a base. That is still 3 points per second or so. And yes, we'll come back to this in a future dev stream, and we'll talk about that data and findings and continue to tune it until we find that kind of sweet spot too. And lastly, I know a lot of players discovered this, self-destructing in the game mode itself. This became kind of a tactic players would employ for a quick method to just respawn, have your health all back, have all your modules fixed, and get right back into the battle, right? At no penalty. The next beta test, we will add a small penalty. If you were to self-destruct, you are awarding 30 points to the enemy team. So no, very similar. If an enemy was to destroy someone on your team and earn 30 points, self-destructing will also just net that enemy team 30 points. So that will then be controlled.
Sounds good.
All right. And sorry, I saw a lot of comments go by. I was trying to get through my spiel here on control mode. So
yeah, some of the comments I saw was, the earnings on, destructions of vehicles. So it's definitely cool that we're investigating that and, changing the values to see, how that affects everything in the long run. So
right.
Look forward to seeing more of that in action.
How's the Daveland map coming? Dave GM referring to the community map, of course. Going well. I mentioned this before as well. It is now off to the art team where they are starting to do kind of their polish pass on it. What I will say, we don't have any imagery to share just yet, of course. It's still very early. We're a few seasons ahead before that will eventually make its debut. But it is going for a bit of a Mediterranean feel and visual aesthetic to it. And I know I've mentioned this before as well. We are starting to kind of collect ideas, suggestions of map names, and eventually we'll kind of put it up to a poll for the community, you guys, to vote what the final name of this community map will be. All right.
Bam Land. Wait, you ruled that one out already, right?
I ruled out Bam Land.
Okay.
Davy McMapface. We'll put it on there. Ila de David.
Oh, that one's kind of cool.
KB, get out of here. Mappy McMapface. Okay. All right. So that was my wrap up on, threw in a little agenda bullet point to talk about the community map, of course. But that was control mode, and that was our content releases and discussion of things that came out this week. Let's talk a little bit about
next week.
Next week.
What do we got in store for our players?
All right, we got some challenges. The Name Your Price, where you, the player, get to pick what kind of multiplier do you want applied on all of your battles. Worth noting that once you make your choice, you cannot change this. So whether you want Commander XP, Tank XP, or Silver, whichever that you feel you need to get a little bit more into the bank, choose wisely, pick that multiplier, and get into those battles because that will just help your boost on those fronts. Then, of course, we also have Silver and Tank XP, where completing a task can net you a quarter extra multiplier on your Silver and Tank XP, or complete 2 of these tasks to get 1.5 times multiplier, but completing 3 will get you a 2 times multiplier. Similarly, we also have a challenge for Commander XP earn boosts. This is another one very similar to the Silver and Tank XP. Complete one of these tasks, and you can earn 1.5 times multiplier. Complete 2 for a 2 times multiplier. Or lastly, if you complete 3, that's a times 3 Commander XP multiplier on top of that.
Can you run by that list again for name your price? It's Commander XP,
Commander XP, Tank XP, and Silver.
Cool.
I do have a habit of just talking a little bit fast. Let's dial it back, take it a little bit slow, calm down. It's Friday, everybody.
Just relax. It's Friday. Everything's gonna be okay.
All right. Let's talk about this tank in the background. I missed if it came up in the chat. Does anybody have any guesses? What's this tank going on back there? Quick hint, we did actually talk about this and debut it during Tank Fest. And now it is coming. The WoT. The ASU 57. The TOG-3. I tell you, that is a beefy TOG-3 if that's what it is. We got someone saying the Object 477A. Ooh. Brett Watcher, the Molot maybe? The Molot? The Mulat? A Russian tank? All right, I think you guys got it. Yes, the Object 477A, the Molots. We debuted this during our Tank Fest. A small sneak peek at that time. It is coming to the game finally next Tuesday. Please look forward to this one. Here we have it on screen. Worth noting, we did have some video footage and more discussion during Tank Fest of the Molot. And with the few rounds of super tests, we've kind of concluded that we needed some tuning and adjustments to this tank. We have added a yaw limit to the turret that gives it makes the tank hull locked. The yaw limits have been updated to around plus and minus 70 degrees, and this is to help balance it out from its very strong frontal armor protection. And on top of that, it's also worth mentioning that the gun turret itself, mounted on the chassis, does not actually take health damage. The turret itself simply acts as spaced armor, and the gun is a module. And when damaging that turret, you're not actually damaging any health off the tank itself. Reason being, this is very much a kind of an automated, unmanned turret on top of the tank. So you're never hitting the crew in there, and it is just more or less a space armor, like I said. So the Molot here, coming packed with a massive 152 millimeter gun, doing a big alpha damage of 760 and 900 millimeters of penetration. This is a gun designed to punch through the enemy's armor and deal just a massive blow at the expense of a bit of a slow firing rate. As mentioned before, the frontal armor protection is near impenetrable, and this is thanks to its extreme angles and multiple layers of ERA spaced armor. It plays very well as a fire support vehicle and can hold down an area if positioned well. This is a tank that you want to make sure you keep your front pointed toward your targets and your enemies, and make sure you maximize the most protection, keeping your enemies at a distance and avoid letting them get to your sides as close as possible. Because the Molot tank is a lot weaker and can be easily penned if fired upon from the sides and the rear. Now, I did say it does have a bit of a slow firing rate. That is for its main 152 millimeter gun, but this tank also comes equipped with a secondary weapon mounted on top with the 30 millimeter autocannon. Excellent for a high fire rate, mostly targeting the lightly armored vehicles. This tank is a bit of a monster. We loved it in playtest, but as said, because we had some early concerns with that amount of frontal armor, this was more or less the reason of adding this yaw limit as a bit of a balancing factor.
And it also has a wonderful skin, as you can see here.
Oh, yes, there we have it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for the reminder. I actually didn't have a bullet point for that.
All sounds amazing. Can't wait to get my hands on it.
Next Tuesday, Molot, the Object 477A Molot, coming this Tuesday to modern armor tanks near you. On the subject of the Molot, Tankz0rz, let's do a giveaway. Two lucky winners for their chance to win the Molot added to their account.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what to do here. It's giveaway time. Go ahead and enter into our giveaway link. Oops. I double linked that one. Anyways, go ahead and enter into our link, put in your wonderful Wargaming ID, and you'll be entered for our giveaway today. 2 lucky winners are going to get this lovely new tank here.
Here we have it. So we're about ready to jump into some Q&As here, and we'll circle back to the winner of the Molot probably toward the end of the stream here. So I only touched upon this very briefly, but we are just a little over a week away from the debut and release of the next season. War Hero season is coming to a close. You guys have just over a week left to complete your season challenges if you haven't quite hit that level 100 reward just yet. Or if you want to make sure you get that extra 20% off the Calliope tank as part of our year-long allegiance, if that is something you are aiming for. So that is just a reminder, get in that last few battles and complete your season challenges. And I've been pretty bad at this. And I haven't actually seen players ask of like, what's the next map coming? Can we get a hint or anything? What might it be? What might it be? Well, I'll tell you what, there is a new map coming in the next season. But if I were to give you guys a hint, I would say that would just ruin the surprise. Shout out to Max Chaos for that pun. Dave GM, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. I see your comment there. All right.
Is it
and
Q&A time?
Mention next. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was asking, is it Q&A time? It sounds like you got some more stuff to talk about.
Well, very briefly, next season, I mentioned it. We will also be having more control beta tests going on too. Dates on those pending. We'll let you guys know what weekends we decide to run those.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Alrighty. Q&A times. Here we go.
Q&A time. Quick reminder. I will try to make a mention of this every time we go into the Q&As. I watch the chat from time to time. Sometimes it goes a little bit too quickly. There's a lot of notes for me to kind of keep up here on this side of the screen here. But we have shifted our Q&As to a submission form where you, the players, can send your questions to a link. I think we put it into the chat. I think KB has pinned it as well. If you guys have questions, please submit it to the link. We do collect those and get them over to the development side early next week. And that gives us a little bit more time to pass it around to the various departments and gives other individuals a chance to answer a lot of these questions and give a little bit more detail when we come to the Q&A segments of our next following stream. That being said, Tankz0rz, take it away. Where's our questions?
All right. Do you have the page open?
I do.
Do I have the page open?
Let me, 1 second, technical difficulties. I have a feeling we're on different pages.
Please hold while we figure out this little dilemma. Thank you very much.
Let me know if that link works.
Verifying. Yes. There we go. Perfect. All right. First question. Here we go. We're professional streamers, by the way. Can you return Abbey and Mountain Pass to the map rotation for higher tiers? Abbey and Mountain Pass has been played up to tier 10 for years. Why are they only available to lower tiers now? Is there a possibility for us to return them into rotation?
So you're correct. Mountain Pass, Abbey, several other maps as well, Mines, Port, Ghost Town, used to be into the high tier tank battle range. I'm sorry, map rotation. Brain fart there. In the past. Over time, we heard from the players and there was concerns about, these maps getting sick of seeing it at the tier 10 range, unbalanced. Or, we did take a look at like the average match times and we did see there were some issues with that. But we did see this comes up time and time again. And our level designer did take a look at a selection of maps, and you can expect in our next season a great deal of maps kind of shifting around a little bit, both in the high tiers and even in the Cold War higher eras at the same time. So, but to address your exact question, yes to Mountain Pass. That one is making its way back into the high tiers, and our level designer is taking a look at Abbey to see if maybe we can squeeze that one in too. That one's a little bit more questionable, but Mountain Pass is making its way back to tier 10.
Sounds good. Next question here is it possible to remove the map ping limit in custom games? It is something that competitive players like to use all the time, and it'd be beneficial to them.
I can talk with engineering. It's a nice small quality of life feature. If it's an easy enough thing that can be done strictly in custom games, we can look into it. I will stress very low priority. This is kind of the same answer anytime custom game stuff comes up. We try to make improvements to it, but with a lot of our other content features, that one does kind of sit on the back burner a little bit. So I'll give you a maybe.
Let's see. Could we get more city maps on Cold War so people aren't prone to sniping you? Similar to Berlin or the Paris map. If it's too small, possibly try a bigger type of map with the same feel.
Stay tuned for next season. Cold War is getting a little bit more urban map love.
That sounds good. Next question. Are there any thoughts on adding any additional XP factors for distance traveled? It would be nice to de-emphasize campers, and the spotting rewards seem to be a little bit on the low end based on spotting distances, especially in Cold War with longer vision ranges.
I'm going to say my gut decision on that is a no. I get it. Some players may not like those that kind of sit back behind, the comfort of their own ally lines, not getting themselves into the battle. But there is play styles in which players like the more snipey, shoot from a range distance kind of style. And we also don't want to encourage, if we add some sort of XP bonus for those that like to drive long distances, we want to make sure we're not encouraging people just to,
drive in circles.
Just drive in circles and sightsee on the map. There's a battle going on, and we need people engaged and involved and on the front lines and even defending the base. So I'm just going to say a no to that one.
Alrighty. Next question here. Could the low get an alpha buff to 360? There are already a few heavy tanks with tier 8 that have 360 alpha on a 105mm gun. Plus the change would also give the low more usable DPM, as well as differentiate it from the Tiger 2's gun.
So shout out to our lead tank designer, Plague, who did some data diving onto this one. So the low is currently sitting on an average win rate of 51.2%, and also cross-referenced with higher player skill levels. It's only about a 2% average difference above that. And when looking at the damage, it is doing roughly 100 to 200 more damage on average than that of other tier 8 heavy tanks. So just taking that performance into consideration, that the 320 normal alpha damage for the low right now, and found on most German heavy tanks for their 10.5 centimeter guns, there doesn't seem to be a need or desire to apply any buffs or damage further, as we do see that it is performing well.
Next question here's asking, can quick resume be disabled for Xbox Series consoles? It doesn't seem to function properly due to the nature of the online game. It could also seem to cause some issues when updating the game. Any info for that?
So just in case this is unclear, the quick resume is something very new on like the PS5, Xbox Series X and S, that allow players to minimize their game and pull up another game or app or something and still get right back to it. And yes, World Tanks is going to be naturally supported by that. I will stress this is not something that we control. We can't just disable that. That is on the platform holders control side of all of that, where they have that just naturally by default set up across all apps and all games on their platform. However, if this is a problem to you, if the quick resume functionality is not something that, for whatever reason, if you are using it and trying to get back into the game and it's creating some frustration, you can actually disable the quick resume functionality yourself on the platform holders like system settings. This would be in like the games and apps. You should find something for the quick resume, and you should be able to find the game that you would like to remove from the quick resume settings.
Awesome. Next question here. Could we potentially see the IS-7 and the Chieftain Mark 6 in Cold War?
Chieftain Mark 6, this one maybe was just a bit uninformed, is already in Cold War. Surprise! IS-7, there is some conversations and plans for it sometime in the future. Stay tuned on that.
Next question. Is it possible for more World of Tanks console old school maps that are already in the game or on their way back to have smaller versions like the Cold War exclusive maps right now, and have bigger versions similar to some World War II exclusive maps like Sand River and Himmelsdorf? Something along the tunes of how we made Nabelberg and Hellfire Pass, formerly known as Scorpion Pass.
Well, happy to say this has been an ongoing conversation, and our level designer has been doing some work and investigation on applicable maps that we can apply these sort of things. What I will stress, the expanding of map borders is more difficult to address. If you, the players, remember Extra Life of last year, we asked you guys what kind of community map you wanted us to work on. And we pitched two options. One of them was the current ongoing community map, the more urban coastline-like one. The other community map pitch was the Mines Expanded Borders one. The reason why we wanted to pitch a Mines version is we'd love to see Mines working in high tiers as well as Cold War and a bigger expanded border, but it's not something we can get done in a very quick amount of time, and want to get that kind of tested by the player base as well. So that's just my quick on expanding borders. We'd like to do stuff like that, but it's just not easily achievable. It is a kind of a tall order for development. However, on taking maps like the Cold War exclusive maps, Hellfire Pass, these very large maps that are 1.4 kilometers squared. Hellfire is 1.5 kilometers squared. We are actively looking at the Cold War maps and seeing if there is applicable border size changes that we can make with minimal actual map layout changes that will make it applicable into World War II rotation. We are looking into that. Hellfire Pass, expect to see some changes to that one very soon. As a matter, I may have to get confirmation, but we might be trying to squeeze something in for next season on Hellfire Pass, coming back to World War II. I may have to double check on that one.
Awesome. Next question here. Question for the map designers. I don't know if it's possible to create this, but can we get Fog of War on Corellia in Cold War? A Fog of War that would ideally start at the beginning of the map and fade away after a minute or so of battle. If so, is it possible to get certain World War II maps in rotation, like El Haluf, etc., once we have that implemented?
I'm so glad they brought up El Haluf as an example. When we were developing just the Cold War mode itself, we tested all the maps that we had in the game and had to pick out some of them that were like El Haluf. This one is an obvious example that just doesn't work, where spawns are able to see each other right at the start of the game during the countdown. As well. And we did float the idea of having some sort of storm cloud that creates an extra layer of fog. That is some extra effort on our VFX and art department teams, but it is ideas and conversations that we are still talking about, trying to figure out if we want to include some sort of dynamic weather events into the game. All things that on the art tech side needs to be developed. Can't promise any of those things coming soon. But Corellia, you asked about Corellia adding a Fog of War element. We do know that Cold War mode in Corellia, players have pointed out spawn point issues, seeing the players on the other side. Do expect in the next season, we have adjusted the spawns that should remove that issue of seeing the enemies at the start of the match itself. On the Fog of War side of things, nothing to say on that front. It's just ongoing prototyping and conversation internally. Nothing to announce or give promise any dates at this time.
Alrighty. Next question here: is there any chance of adding a kill count inscription /camo/skin like the ones that our partners at World of Warships Legends have implemented?
I actually wrote up a ticket for this. Degeneratio reached out to me a while back on this one, and we have this one, I think, on the UI team. What I will say, it's a great idea. It's not a priority at this time, and we just have to figure out a good dynamic way that will showcase, like, what is your current standing of how many tank destroys that you've gotten, etc., to be displayed actively on your tank. It's a great idea, and I think there might be some positive sentiment that players would love to have that showcased on their tanks. Like I said, there's a ticket for investigation, see if that's something that we can get in, but can't promise any dates or release updates on that soon.
You imagine just turning to your left and you see a tank with like a 15 kill inscription, and you turn to your right and you see someone with a 16, and you're like, wait a minute, how do you get the 16?
No, I think that's a good question, though. No, the way it works in World of Warships is that this is like an overall count, your total that you dealt with that tank, not in a single battle.
Not a single battle, right?
Yeah.
Alrighty, let's see. Next question here: can we have a team player medal for people that respond to the requesting fire calls?
We can think on that. It's an interesting one to have some sort of medal applied to it. I'm all for trying to find better ways to incentivize teamwork and some sort of communication with your other players into the game itself, especially with requesting fire calls. That is very helpful sometimes. From my perspective, I think it'd be a better approach to maybe think about maybe some XP silver bonus tied to those that request a firing on a target and getting that actual fire happen from an ally. So something that we'd probably think about it in that direction before we try tying a medal to it.
Next question here. Do we have any plans on removing the new player restrictions or new player map restrictions affecting other players? Co-op Era 1 is almost always the same 3 maps. Era 1 is still restricted in co-op, despite the fact that we seldom see new players and can have a full map of rotation, please, for Era 1.
Okay, so some context on this front. What season was that? Was it the Legions season? The beginning of this year, we introduced a new player map rotation, specifically in co-op mode. For those that may not be aware, any new player who joins into our game, they are restricted to co-op battles only until they have played at least 10 battles. That is when we unlock multiplayer mode. And so one of the things that we were trying to do was reduce the number of maps that are surfaced to new players to help get them a little bit more comfortable with the game itself. It's a complex game, a lot of systems going on. They have to learn about all the penetration, the bounce, the angling of the armor, and throwing new map after new map after new map in rotation to them can be very hard for them to know what are actually the strategic good routes to be successful. So our hypothesis there was starting them a little bit on a smaller map rotation, let them learn the ropes on these a little bit more, and then they can start to master much more of the gameplay from that point forward. However, we have made tuning adjustments over the course of several seasons because, yes, we do understand that if an experienced player jumps into co-op mode and there is a new player under X number of battles, we do define new players by X number of battles that they played the game, you will be kind of scooped into their match and will be stuck onto their map rotation as well. We get it. That's not a great experience. You know, there's more maps that could be chosen out of the pool. And that said, we are working on a new player matchmaker that will, for an X number of battles, new players will only matchmake with other new players. So that said, we will be doing our best to restore the full map rotation for Era 1 co-op for any experienced player who goes in there, and you should not be impacted by new players. That is something that we're looking to doing soon, but it's not going to be in the next season, I should stress.
All right, next question here. Are there still groups of players, which we consider beginners, that are getting better RNG than other players?
Yes, this actually couples well with the previous comment because we really want to help educate and improve the gameplay experience of a new player. New players joining the game after X number of battles, I don't recall the actual numbers because it changes over the course of maybe 100 battles. When the new player first joins the game, they do have a little bit of a better RNG for penetration and damage, and even receiving penetration and damage. But I want to stress, this is specifically in co-op mode only. They cannot bring that over to multiplayer. They will not have an advantage over any experienced players in multiplayer, and they can only have that advantage in co-op mode against bots. So over the course of battles, we start to kind of remove that RNG, and then at certain points, it is completely gone, and they're very much on par with the rest of the players.
Next question is regarding maps. When will...
You got a lot of questions.
Are you ready for this one? When will
Ready.
Komarin, South Coast, Sacred Valley, Province, Ensk, Mittengard, and Mittengard be re-added?
Re-added. So... not given any dates, but yes, Komarin and Ensk are being actively looked at and worked on. Will be on a future roadmap. And Province is also being looked at lightly. South Coast and Sacred Valley, unfortunately, these have not been touched, and it's not part of our map update plan. Reason being is that these weren't well liked and not well. The balance rates were not too great when those maps were into the game in the past. Not to say they're never coming back. There is a chance, but they are a little bit further down the road than the other maps that we have on the roster. The last map you mentioned, Mittengard, this actually was never a map that we had on World of Tanks Modern Armor. Never came to console. That is a PC map only. But one day it may make its migration over to World of Tanks Modern Armor. One day. We did talk about this before in terms of like Navalburg. That was also an exclusive map on World of Tanks PC. And we finally, over time and with our tech team, worked out a process for actual importing of PC maps into our game. And this includes more than just the map itself, the height map, the assets that come along with it, but also updating current existing building assets to mirror a lot of what WoT PC has. So not saying that those will be kind of put onto a lot of other current existing maps, but there is opportunity if we find buildings that we grab onto some new maps that we put into the game, and those are shared assets with current existing buildings in other maps, those very well could get updated.
Awesome. Next question here, again on maps. Can Airfield and Sunset Coast be separated in map rotation? They are a little bit too similar to be in the same rotation at the same time.
Let's see. I get it because these are technically the same height maps, but one's a desert, one's a jungle, and I do understand there is some sentiment for and against Sunset Coast. We often listen to the players that they want more maps into rotation, and ever trying to make that decision of pulling a map out. We try not to do that. We try to bring more maps into rotation. That's been our initiative for the past couple of years, is making sure we grow that map roster. Yeah, like I said, I know there is some sentiment for and against Sunset Coast. That is something we'll continue to see feedback in. Airfield is here to stay. We're not going to be pulling that one out of rotation to keep Sunset Coast held at other tiers in rotation. But yeah.
Next question here. Can you please remove encounter mode from Malinovka?
I'd be curious as to why. So we often get questions and comments, but we don't get quite the reasoning behind some of these of why we want to take away more stuff instead of just like, oh, is it a balance problem? Is it, is the encounter base mode in a location that is just not great for the gameplay? Is it causing matches to kind of end in a blowout within the first couple of minutes? So the balance itself, shout out to our level designer who did some data pulls for us. Encounter on Melanovka is at a 50.53%, very well balanced. That's at the mid-tier range, and even better for the high tiers, Encounter Melanovka at a 50.2%. So we don't see a reason to pull it out. It's just more varied gameplay opportunity put into the game. But yeah.
Let's see. What is the win and loss ratio for Redshire? It seems that I see more losses when starting on the bottom of the map. I like the map, but maybe there's something that we could adjust to help us.
So this is another one. My level designers kind of grabbed some data for us to share with you guys. Taking a look at the map, let's start with Cold War. The question didn't specify if this was mostly a World War II player or Cold War, but Redshire in Cold War, and we're going to look specifically at Standard Battle, is at a 53.4%. A little bit on the high side. There could be some adjustments made there. For mid-tiers in World War II, Redshire is at 47.6%. So this is an example where a lot of our maps that we bring into the game, and we also have it compatible between World War II and Cold War, we try out the maps with the current set of spawns that is shared between World War II and Cold War first, just to see if the gameplay is still solid, that the balance feels right, and that they're, we try our best to catch a lot of the spawn point issues as well when they go into Cold War mode. I can't recall if Redshire had a different set of Cold War spawns. It may be the case, but this is where it gets tricky because Cold War Redshire has a 53% win rate for Team 1. I'm not sure if that's the North Team or South Team. I'd have to look into that a little bit deeper. But for mid-tiers, it's beneath 50% at 47.6. Again, these aren't terrible balance changes. Definitely worth a follow-up investigation. But anything that we try to adjust in Cold War, if it's a shared spawner for World War II, that means we're also going to be changing the balance for World War II. And that just becomes a conversation like, okay, well, let's just separate it out. That's always very much a possibility. Let's see. And then lastly here, for high tiers on Redshire, tiers 9 and 10, sitting roughly also at 47.6%. So we'll have kind of a follow-up ticket to investigate a little bit, but otherwise it's not a terrible balance.
Awesome. Next question revolves around clans here and custom games. It says, in custom games, would it be possible to add the option to make players visible or invisible to spectators? This would help clans train new players during our training sessions.
This is the first I've heard a question like this. I answered something similar. This is custom games. It's going to be low on priority. I can try to bring this up into conversation as something we do for next year.
Okay. Next question. Can we get the option to add bots into custom games for training purposes? It kind of ties into what we just talked about. Clans get this.
Well, custom games.
Yeah. Clans get this area a lot, and they would like to create training rooms of 7 versus, an anonymous number of other team members to strategize and, maneuver the battlefields.
Is Mr. SPG in the chat? Does he like the idea of adding bots into custom games? If I was to give my 2 cents is we will not do this as a permanent feature for custom games. Reason being, thank you, Mr. SPG. That is a no. This is a concern with the amount of arena creations that can get potentially made and the extra bots. That does create more load on the server memory and could potentially lead to server performance lag. Something that we need to avoid because we don't want anything going on with custom games, believe it or not, that could bleed over into the random battle of the game itself, where we need people there with all the bots, etc. That said, we can think about perhaps allowing bots for tournaments and clan battles in some way, but we'd have to figure out that we don't just unlock it. So every single player custom games lobby with at least one other player, right? That's the minimum need. You need at least 2 players in there. Can just launch a bunch of custom games populated with 28 bots. Something that we cannot we cannot support in our game.
Alrighty. This is a quick little question for you. Can the E100 get a buff?
Interestingly enough, this tank plus several others are getting some love in our next coming season. Stay tuned. We'll have update notes on that. Can't cover any specifics. More details on that next week.
Another buff question here. Can the Object 268 version 4 receive some mobility buffs?
All right, so the Object 268 right now is in a good place. Solid 50% win rate, and there's just no indications that it needs to be improved in order to say it's got to do better. In regards to its armor, it does block roughly around 750 damage per game. Then that even compared against the T110E4, which is roughly 250 damage, and that's still even more than the T110E3. It is extremely well armored and blocks most of the damage of all TDs in the game, and due to its armor, the DPM is kept lower just to keep it within balance.
Alrighty. Let's see, when will the next sale for the Weasel be available?
The Weasel! So this was a new tank that came out just this past February. It won't likely be available until maybe next year, but we could run some special sales events. Maybe stay tuned for the holidays or Black Friday sales, where we typically have big blowout sales for many tanks in the games. That's not a promise. It's not currently scheduled for re-release, but it is something that we're kind of keeping an eye on if we see that, maybe if we should re-release the Weasel in the near interim.
Next question. Would you be doing Prime rewards ever again sometime in the future?
So this is linked directly to Twitch drops. This isn't something that we're doing at the moment, unfortunately.
Okay. Last question here. When will we have the Ash the Cat Commander back on sale?
Ash the Cat, our 2D Halloween commander. October is right around the corner. I think it might be a fair bet. Ash the Cat might be making a return. Maybe even as part of like a key card of some sort.
You said it's right around the corner, and I was like, wait a minute. It is right around the corner.
Kind of scary, right?
This year flew by.
We're almost out of July here. Almost done with the War Hero season. Got a new season coming. Almost out of summer. Time really is flying.
It's definitely going to be exciting times here. So we still have a giveaway here. Should we?
2 winners. Yeah.
Should we
Let's pick out 2 winners. Who is getting the Object 477A Molot?
All right. We ready for this? Here we go. Our first lucky winner is Rambino83, congratulations.
Rambino, congratulations.
And our second winner is Decky1977. Congratulations to our 2 lucky winners here.
I see Rambino in the chat. Wow, congratulations. And Ducky, you said he was the other one?
Decky. D-E-K-I.
Decky.
Yep.
Fantastic. Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. Wow, we covered a lot of questions today.
That was a lot of questions. Yeah, I'd like to thank everyone for sticking here with us and listening to all of these amazing questions. Hopefully we get to some of your questions in the upcoming streams. So go ahead and click on our survey, answer your questions, and we'll get around to those. Thank you very much for hanging out with us today, and if you're on Twitch, stick around. We're going to go ahead and raid one of our community contributors. For everyone else, have a fantastic weekend, and we'll see you on the battlefield.
And tune in with us next week, where we'll be talking about the new season and all the hot details then.
All right. Sounds great. Take care.
Have a great weekend.